The grand station orbited above Prime like a jewel in space. Inside its massive chambers, thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered for the council meeting. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had forms that simple description. They filled the circular room with chittering, humming, and speaking in languages that needed translators to understand. At the center of it all sat the Arbiter, an ancient creature whose multifaceted eyes reflected the lights of 1,000 worlds. Captain stood at the entrance to the chamber with his companion, Ambassador. Both wore the simple blue uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around them, alien delegates whispered and pointed. Some laughed. Others simply stared with curiosity at the newcomers from the small world called Earth. Felt the weight of every eye upon him. He had fought in wars on his home planet. He had seen cities burn and watched good people die for causes both noble and foolish. But nothing in his military career had prepared him for this moment. The fate of his entire species rested on what happened in the next few hours. Leaned close and whispered in Korean, "They already think we're nothing. Look at how they stare at us." Nodded slightly. He could see it in their faces, or what passed for faces among these alien beings. Amusement, contempt, the kind of look someone gives to a child playing at adult games. It made his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression calm. The Arbiter raised one of its many limbs, and the chamber fell silent. Its voice emerged from a translator device, cold and mechanical. "The Council recognizes the representatives from the planet Earth. You may speak." Walked forward into the center of the chamber. The floor beneath his feet was made of some material that seemed to shift colors as he moved. Above him, holographic displays showed Earth spinning in space, along with data about its population, resources, and military capabilities. The numbers looked pathetically small compared to the other worlds represented here. He cleared his throat and began. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, I am Captain of Earth. I come here today not to beg for your acceptance, but to offer you partnership. Humanity wishes to join the galactic community as equals, with full respect for our sovereignty and our right to govern ourselves." A rippling sound moved through the chamber. It took a moment to realize it was laughter. A large reptilian creature rose from its seat. The translator identified him as Senator. His voice boomed across the room. "Equals, you come from a world that has barely left its own atmosphere. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. You have no colonies beyond your moon. And you speak of equality." More laughter followed his words. Stepped forward, her voice firm. "We may be new to space travel, but humanity has survived things that would have destroyed other species. We have fought through ice ages, plagues, and wars that killed millions. We rebuilt every time. We learned. We adapted. That is what makes us strong." The Arbiter's mechanical voice cut through the noise. "Survival on a single world is not the same as thriving across a galaxy. Your species is divided into competing nations. You still fight each other over resources and territory. You are not ready to join the Council." Felt his hands curl into fists at his sides. He forced them to relax. "That is exactly why we need clear boundaries. We are asking for 3 things. First, recognition of Earth's sovereignty over our solar system. Second, the right to expand at our own pace without interference. Third, respect for human laws within our territory." He paused, letting his next words carry weight. "We are offering cooperation, but we will not accept subjugation." The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of beings spoke at once, their voices mixing into an incomprehensible roar. Senator's voice rose above the others. "This is outrageous. They make demands. They threaten us." The Arbiter raised multiple limbs and silence returned. "Captain, the Council has discussed your application extensively. We find your species interesting but immature. We cannot grant you full membership at this time." His heart sank, but he kept his face neutral. "Then we will return home and reapply when you deem us ready." "That will not be necessary," the Arbiter continued. "We are prepared to offer Earth Protectorate status. You will be placed under the guidance of more experienced species. They will help you develop proper governance and technology. In time, perhaps in a few centuries, you may be ready for true membership." The words hit like a physical blow. Protectorate status meant giving up control. It meant allowing alien governments to dictate Earth's policies, to station their ships in human space, to treat his people like children who needed supervision. He had been warned this might happen, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. "We refuse," he said quietly. The Arbiter's many eyes focused on him. "You refuse our generous offer." "We did not come here to surrender our freedom," replied. "Humanity has fought too hard and sacrificed too much to bow to foreign control now. We will govern ourselves whether you approve or not." Senator rose again, his reptilian features twisted in anger. "Then you choose isolation. The Council cannot allow an unguided species to expand unchecked through the galaxy. You are a danger to yourselves and potentially to others." The Arbiter nodded slowly. "The Council agrees. Earth will be placed under quarantine. Your solar system will be blocked from all galactic trade and travel. No ships will be permitted to enter or leave. You will have 30 cycles to reconsider your position. If you do not accept Protectorate status by then, the quarantine will become permanent." Grab's arm, but he gently pulled away. He looked up at the Arbiter and the assembled Council members. "You are making a mistake. We came here in peace. We offered friendship. You respond with threats and blockades. Remember this moment because we will." He turned and walked toward the exit, following close behind. As they left, he heard Senator's laughter echoing through the chamber. "Remember, what will you do, little human? Your ships are toys. Your weapons are clubs compared to ours. Accept your place or accept irrelevance." Did not look back. He kept walking until they reached their small shuttle in the docking bay. Only when the door sealed behind them did he allow himself to show emotion. He slammed his fist against the wall, then took a deep breath. Activated the communications console. What do we tell them back home? Moved to the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. The shuttle lifted off and moved away from the grand station, back toward the distant point of light that was Earth. He watched the station grow smaller and thought about all the beings inside who had dismissed humanity so casually. "Tell them the Council refused our terms," he said. "Tell them we're being quarantined like a disease, and tell Admiral Min to activate all contingency protocols. We tried peace. They chose war." He began composing a message in his head as their shuttle jumped to faster-than-light travel. The words would be simple and direct. They didn't listen. "Prepare the contingencies. Humanity stands alone." It would be encrypted and sent the moment they reached communication range with Earth. As the stars stretched into lines around them, allowed himself one small, grim smile. The Council thought they knew what humanity was capable of. They thought Earth would surrender when faced with superior force. They were wrong. Humanity had always been at its best when faced with impossible odds. The aliens were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The alien warships arrived in Earth's solar system exactly 7 days after the Council's ultimatum. They came in force, dozens of vessels ranging from small patrol craft to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. They took up positions at the edge of the system, forming a blockade that nothing could pass through. The message was clear. Earth was cut off from the galaxy. Admiral Min stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the holographic display that showed every alien ship in the system. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind remained sharp. He had spent 30 years in Earth's military, rising through the ranks during the Unity Wars when the nations of Earth finally stopped fighting each other. Now he faced a new kind of war, one that would determine whether humanity survived as a free species. Around him, officers and technicians worked at their stations. The room hummed with activity and nervous energy. Everyone knew what was at stake. On the main screen, one of the alien dreadnoughts slowly rotated, its hull covered in weapons that could glass entire continents. A young officer approached. "Sir, they're hailing us again. Same message as before. Submit to protectorate status or face permanent isolation." Min shook his head. "Ignore it. Send the shutdown order to all communication satellites. I want complete radio silence within the hour." The officer hesitated. "Sir, that will cut us off from the rest of the galaxy completely, if we need to negotiate." "We're not negotiating," Min said firmly. "Let them think we're preparing to surrender. Let them get comfortable. They'll learn the truth soon enough." Across the planet, the order went out. One by one, Earth's communication arrays went dark. The last broadcasts to the stars faded into silence. To the aliens watching from their ships, it looked like humanity was giving up, retreating into sullen acceptance of their fate. They were wrong. In a laboratory buried beneath the Gobi Desert, Doctor worked without sleep. She was a small woman with quick hands and a brilliant mind. Around her, the lab buzzed with activity. Technicians assembled weapons. Engineers tested new designs. Scientists analyzed alien technology that had been secretly acquired over the past decade through various means, some legal, others less so. Stood before a large screen showing the schematics of an alien shield generator. She had been studying it for months, looking for weaknesses. Now she thought she had found one. The aliens relied too heavily on their technology. Their shields were powerful but inflexible. They could withstand massive energy weapons but were vulnerable to rapid changes in attack frequency. "If we can build emitters that cycle through multiple frequencies," she explained to her team, "we can overload their shield matrices. It won't destroy the ships, but it will disable their defenses long enough for conventional weapons to hit them." A younger scientist frowned. "How do we get close enough to use these emitters? Their point defense systems will shoot down any missile we launch." Smiled, it was not a pleasant smile. "We don't use missiles, we use people." She pulled up another schematic, this one showing a small stealth ship. These vessels were designed for special operations. They're small enough to slip past sensors and fast enough to get in close. We mount the emitters on them and have pilots fly them right up to the alien ships. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. It would be suicide missions. The pilots would have to fly through enemy fire with no guarantee of success. "Will anyone volunteer for that?" someone asked quietly. Before could answer, a voice came from the doorway. "I will." Commander Ho stepped into the lab. He was a Special Forces operative, lean and hard with eyes that had seen too much combat. "Give me a ship and a target. I'll get it done." Nodded. "We'll have the first prototype ready in 2 weeks. But first, we need intelligence. We need to know which ships are command vessels, where they store their supplies, how they coordinate their fleet." Ho's expression didn't change. "Then I'll get you that intelligence. When do I leave?" "Tonight," Min's voice came through the laboratory speakers. He had been listening to the conversation from his command center. "Commander, you'll take a stealth ship through the blockade. There's a supply depot in the system. Hit it, grab whatever data you can and get back. We need to know what we're up against." Ho saluted toward the nearest camera. "Understood, sir. I'll need a team." "You'll have 5 of our best," Min replied. "Choose them yourself. And Commander, don't die out there. We're going to need experienced people for what comes next." That night, as Earth rotated in silence beneath the watchful eyes of the alien fleet, a small ship slipped away from a hidden base on the dark side of the moon. It was barely larger than a shuttle, painted in materials that absorbed sensor beams rather than reflecting them. Inside, Ho and his 5 team members sat in the cramped crew bay, checking their weapons and equipment. The ship drifted slowly, using minimal power, looking like just another piece of space debris. It took 3 days to clear the blockade, moving at a speed that would have made a snail impatient. But patience was something humans had learned well during their long history. Once they were clear, the ship's engines came to life, and it jumped to faster-than-light speed. heading for. The aliens had established a supply depot there to support their blockade fleet. It was lightly guarded because they never expected humanity to have the capability or the courage to strike outside their own system. They were wrong about that too. The depot orbited a small rocky planet, a collection of storage modules and a few defensive platforms. Ho's ship approached from the shadow of the planet, using its gravity to mask their approach. They docked at an auxiliary port, cutting through the lock with plasma torches. The interior of the depot was designed for aliens, with corridors too tall and doorways too wide for human proportions. Ho's team moved quickly, their weapons ready. They encountered their first guard at an intersection, one of the reptilian species that served the Council. The creature opened its mouth to raise an alarm, but Ho's silenced rifle spoke first. The alien fell without a sound. They reached the control center and one of Ho's team members, a woman named Bin, plugged her device into the alien computer system. Data began flowing, terabytes of information about fleet movements, supply schedules, shield frequencies, and command protocols. "How long?" Ho asked, watching the corridor behind them. 2 minutes, Bin replied, her fingers dancing across her portable screen. "There's so much data here. Fleet deployments, communication codes, even personal logs from ship captains." An alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the depot. They had been discovered. "Time to go," Ho shouted. His team ran back toward their ship, fighting past guards who were just beginning to respond. Plasma bolts filled the corridors. One of Ho's men, a young soldier named Ho, took a hit to the shoulder but kept running. They reached their ship and sealed the hatch. The stealth vessel tore away from the depot as defensive platforms opened fire. The pilot threw the ship into a series of violent maneuvers, dodging energy beams and missiles. They took hits. An alarm screamed throughout the small craft, but they made it to minimum safe distance and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, the aliens scrambled to organize a pursuit, but by the time they got ships moving, the humans were gone. Ho sat in the crew bay, applying emergency medical treatment to Ho's wounded shoulder. The younger man gritted his teeth against the pain but didn't cry out. Around them, the rest of the team checked their equipment and downloaded the stolen data. Bin looked up from her screen, her eyes wide. "Commander, you need to see this. According to these files, the Council is planning more than just a blockade. Senator has been lobbying for a punitive expedition. He wants to bomb our orbital facilities as a demonstration of power. The vote is scheduled for next week." Ho's jaw tightened. He had killed enemies before many times, but those had been human enemies who understood the rules of war. The aliens were different. They saw humanity as insects to be stepped on, primitives who needed to be taught a lesson. "Get that data to Admiral Min immediately," he ordered, "and tell him we're coming home. Earth needs to be ready because they're coming for us." The stealth ship raced through the darkness between stars, carrying information that would change everything. Back on Earth, Min received the data and immediately convened his command staff. They studied the alien fleet deployments, their weapons capabilities, their communication protocols. And slowly, carefully, they began to formulate a plan. Doctor worked even harder, pushing her team to complete the shield disruptors ahead of schedule. Factories that had once built cars and computers retooled to produce weapons. Mines that had been closed for decades reopened to extract materials for ship construction. Humanity mobilized for war. The Council's battle group entered Earth's solar system with all the confidence of a predator approaching wounded prey. 50 warships of various sizes moved in formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. They came to teach humanity a lesson, to show the primitives what happened when the Galactic Order. Senator stood on the bridge of his personal dreadnought at the center of the formation. Through the viewport, he could see Earth as a small blue dot in the distance. Around him, his crew worked efficiently at their stations. The ship's weapons were charged and ready. This would be quick, he thought. A few orbital platforms destroyed, maybe a military base or two reduced to rubble, and the humans would beg for mercy. On Earth, Admiral Min watched the approaching fleet on his displays. He sat in his command chair, his face calm despite the hammering of his heart. Around him, the command center buzzed with controlled chaos. Officers called out positions and status reports. Technicians monitored thousands of hidden weapons systems scattered throughout the solar system. Range, Min asked quietly. 15 million kilometers and closing, an officer replied. Current speed brings them to effective weapons range in 42 minutes. Min nodded. Everything had to be perfectly timed. Too early and the aliens would have time to adapt. Too late and Earth's orbital defenses would be destroyed before they could respond. He had studied the data Ho brought back, had run simulations hundreds of times. He knew the alien fleet's weaknesses. Now he would exploit them. All units stand ready, he ordered. No one fires until my command. The alien fleet advanced steadily, scanning for targets. Their sensors detected Earth's orbital defense platforms easily enough. The platforms were old designs, barely capable of threatening modern warships. The aliens dismissed them as no real danger. They detected some satellites and communication arrays, but nothing that appeared threatening. Their confidence grew with each passing kilometer. They did not detect the thousands of mines drifting silently in the asteroid belt. They did not see the missile platforms disguised as derelict satellites. They did not notice the small stealth ships hiding in the shadow of Mars, waiting. Human technology was primitive by galactic standards, but humanity had learned to be clever, to hide, to deceive. Commander stood on the bridge of the destroyer Han River, one of Earth's few modern warships. It was small compared to the alien vessels, barely a tenth the size of their smallest frigate. But it was fast and heavily armed with weapons that Doctor's team had modified based on stolen alien technology. Watched her tactical display as the enemy fleet drew closer. Her crew was tense but ready. Most of them were young, many seeing their first combat. She had given them a speech before the battle, telling them they fought not just for themselves but for every human who would ever live. It seemed inadequate now, but it was all she had. Target lock on the enemy flagship, her weapons officer reported, waiting for the signal. The alien fleet reached the orbit of Mars. Still no resistance. Senator smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The humans had no fight in them after all. This would be even easier than expected. Begin targeting sequence, he ordered. Destroy their orbital platforms first, then we'll move on to their military installations on the surface. His weapons officer began to comply, but then every alarm on the ship began screaming at once. The tactical display lit up with thousands of new contacts. They appeared from nowhere, surrounding the fleet on all sides. Mines, missiles, defense drones, and something else, small, fast-moving craft that their sensors could barely track. Ambush, someone shouted. We're surrounded. Admiral Min stood from his chair. Now, he said calmly, all units engage. The space around the alien fleet exploded into light and fury. Mines that had been drifting dormant for weeks suddenly activated, their engines pushing them toward the nearest ships. Missiles launched from hidden platforms, their warheads modified to punch through alien shields. Defense drones swarmed like angry insects, targeting sensors and weapon arrays. The aliens responded with overwhelming firepower, their energy weapons cutting through the swarms of attackers. Hundreds of drones died in the first few seconds. Dozens of missiles were intercepted, but there were too many targets coming from too many directions. Some got through. A mine struck Senator's dreadnought near the engine section. The explosion was relatively small, but it damaged the shield generators. Another mine hit moments later, this one penetrating deeper. The great ship shuddered. Damage report, roared. Multiple breaches, shields at 60% and falling. Engineering reports casualties. Slammed his fist against his chair. Where did they get these weapons? Our intelligence said they were primitives. Across the fleet, other ships reported similar attacks. The aliens fought back fiercely, their superior firepower destroying human weapons by the hundreds. But for every drone destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The humans were spending resources like water, throwing everything they had into this one desperate battle. Commander gave the order, and the Han River burst from its hiding place behind Mars. A dozen other human ships followed her, small and fast compared to the alien vessels, but armed with Doctor's latest creation, shield disruptors. They raced toward the enemy fleet at maximum speed. The aliens saw them coming and opened fire, space filled with energy beams and plasma bolts. One of the human ships exploded immediately, another tumbled away trailing atmosphere. But the rest kept coming, their pilots flying with a recklessness that shocked the alien commanders. Ship shook as a near miss overloaded some systems. She gripped her chair and watched the range counter tick down. 3,000 kilometers, 2,000, 1,000. Fire disruptors, she shouted. The devices activated, sending out waves of rapidly cycling energy that struck the shields of the nearest alien cruiser. For a moment nothing happened. Then the cruiser's shields flickered and died, overloaded by the frequency changes. Conventional weapons from the Han River and her sister ships slammed into the now unprotected hull. The cruiser broke apart, its reactor exploding in a brief new sun. Senator watched in horror as his fleet began to take serious damage. These primitives were actually hurting them. It was impossible. It was unthinkable, but it was happening. All ships, concentrate fire on those small craft, he ordered. Kill them before they can use those shield weapons again. The alien fleet began to focus their fire, and the human ships started dying. One after another they were picked off, their small size no longer enough protection against the sheer volume of firepower directed at them. Commander felt her ship take hit after hit. Alarms screamed. Crew members died at their stations. But she kept fighting, kept ordering her weapons to fire until the very end. Admiral Min watched from Earth as his small fleet was decimated. Each lost ship was a knife to his heart, but he showed no emotion. Not yet. There was still one more move to make. "Signal my flagship," he said quietly. "Ram them." His officers stared at him in shock. "Sir." "You heard me. The Soul is heavily damaged already. Our shields are gone, but our engines still work and we're bigger than any other ship in our fleet." He stood and straightened his uniform. "Sometimes the old ways are the best. Have the crew evacuate to escape pods. I'll pilot her myself." "Admiral, you can't." "That's an order." Min's voice cracked like a whip. He looked around at his command staff, at the men and women who had served with him for years. "It's been an honor. Now get to the escape pods. That's an order for you too." As his crew reluctantly evacuated, Min walked to the helm station of the Soul and sat down. The battleship had been Earth's pride, the largest vessel humanity had ever built. Now it was a battered wreck, half its weapons destroyed, atmosphere leaking from a dozen breaches. But the engines still burned, and that was all he needed. He aimed the ship at Senator's dreadnought and pushed the throttles to maximum. The Soul leaped forward, accelerating to ramming speed. The alien ship detected the threat and tried to maneuver away, but it was too large, too slow. Senator saw the human ship coming and knew he couldn't escape. "All power to forward shields," he screamed. It wasn't enough. The Soul struck the dreadnought like a hammer, her reinforced bow punching through shields and armor. The two ships merged in a catastrophic collision, metal tearing, reactors overloading. The explosion lit up the solar system. Admiral Min died instantly, never feeling pain. His last thought a prayer that his sacrifice would matter. The destruction of the dreadnought broke the alien formation. Suddenly, they were no longer an overwhelming force, but a collection of ships trying to survive. The remaining human defenders pressed their advantage, small ships darting in to strike damaged vessels, mines continuing to exact their toll. The aliens began to retreat. First one ship, then another, then the entire surviving fleet turned and raced back toward the edge of the system. They left behind 30 destroyed or crippled vessels, thousands of dead crew members, and their shattered confidence. On Earth, in the command center now commanded by Min's second officer, there was no celebration. They had won, but the cost had been terrible. Most of their fleet was gone. The orbital platforms were damaged or destroyed. Thousands of military personnel were dead, including the admiral who had led them to victory. Captain stood at a communication console, his face grim. He had watched the battle from Earth's surface, had seen good people die fighting impossible odds. Now he had one more duty to perform. He opened a transmission on all frequencies. The aliens would be monitoring, and began to speak. "This is Captain of Earth to the Galactic Council. You came to our home with weapons. You came to teach us a lesson. I hope you learned something instead. We told you we survived when our own world tried to kill us. We warned you that we don't surrender. You didn't listen." He paused, looking at the camera with hard eyes. "This was your only warning. Leave us alone, or next time we won't stop at our borders. Next time we'll bring the war to you." The news of the Council's defeat at Earth spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within weeks, every spacefaring species knew that the primitives from Earth had destroyed 30 warships and sent the survivors fleeing in panic. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council's authority was questioned. On a remote mining world at the edge of Council space, workers who had been exploited for generations stopped their labor and demanded better treatment. When Council enforcers arrived, they found the miners armed with improvised weapons and a new phrase on their lips: "If Earth can fight, so can we." In the Council chambers, the mood was dark. The Arbiter's usually calm demeanor showed cracks. Its voice carried an edge when it spoke. "We face a crisis of authority. 3 border systems have declared independence. Pirates operate freely in sectors that were safe for centuries, and at the center of it all is this human problem." Senator, who had barely survived the battle at Earth, pounded his scaled fist on his seat. "The problem is that we showed weakness. We should have glassed their entire planet when we had the chance. Send the full fleet. Destroy them before they grow stronger." Other council members argued back. Some agreed with, others urged caution. The debate raged for hours with no resolution. The council was paralyzed, unable to decide on a course of action, and while they argued, humanity acted. Governor Ah stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station and looked down at the planet below. It had been a dead rock 3 months ago, airless and barren. Now, greenhouse facilities dotted the surface. Underground habitats housed 5,000 colonists. Water extraction plants pulled moisture from deep ice deposits. It was humanity's first extrasolar colony, and it was thriving. Ah was a small woman with steel in her spine. She had volunteered to lead the colony knowing it might be a one-way trip. Earth's victory had bought them time, but everyone knew the aliens might return. That made every day precious, every achievement critical. They needed to grow fast, to spread humanity across enough worlds that no single attack could wipe them out. "Governor, transport ships have arrived from Earth," her assistant reported. "They're carrying another 3,000 colonists, plus industrial equipment and defense systems." An nodded. "Get them processed and assigned to the western sector. We'll have housing ready within a week." She turned to look at the assistant. "How many more colony sites has Captain identified?" 17 so far, all within 50 light-years of Earth. Most are marginal worlds that will require extensive terraforming, but they're unclaimed and rich in resources. It was a gamble, this rapid expansion. The Council hadn't formally recognized human claims to these worlds, but the Council was too busy arguing among themselves to stop it. By the time they got organized, humanity would be too spread out to eliminate easily. Captain's merchant fleet moved constantly between Earth and the growing network of colonies. His ships were officially traders, but everyone knew they also carried weapons, military advisors, and intelligence operatives. Himself had been a successful businessman before the war. Now he served humanity by keeping the supply lines open and gathering information about alien movements throughout the galaxy. He sat in the captain's chair of his flagship, the Phoenix Rising, reviewing reports from his network of contacts. Some were human sympathizers from other species. Others were simply merchants who cared more about profit than politics. All of them fed him information about Council fleet movements, political developments, and potential threats. One report made him sit up straight. It came from a contact on a Council trading station, detailing a secret meeting between senator and representatives from 6 species. They were planning something big. The report used the word extermination more than once. Immediately sent an encrypted message to Commander Ho on Earth. "We have a problem, is planning something. He's gathering allies for an unsanctioned strike. This won't be a military fleet. This is genocide." Ho received the message in his office at Earth's intelligence headquarters. He had been promoted after his successful raid on the alien supply depot, now running all of humanity's covert operations. He read his report 3 times, then walked to the office of the new Supreme Commander. The position had been created after Admiral Min's death, consolidating all of Earth's military forces under one command. The job had gone to the person Min himself had recommended in his will, Admiral. She had survived the battle in space, though her ship had been nearly destroyed. Now she bore the responsibility for humanity's defense. Looked older than her years. The weight of command showed in the lines around her eyes, in the gray streaks appearing in her black hair. But her mind remained sharp, and her determination had only grown stronger. "How certain is this intelligence?" she asked after reading's report. "Very certain," Ho replied. "Is organizing a coalition outside official council channels. He's convinced them that humanity is an existential threat that must be eliminated before we grow too strong. They're targeting our colonies." Stood and walked to the window of her office. Outside, the sky was clear blue, peaceful. Hard to believe that somewhere out there, aliens were planning to murder millions of humans simply for refusing to submit. "How long do we have?" 3 months, maybe 4. They're assembling the fleet in secret, but it takes time to coordinate multiple species forces. Turned back to Ho. "Then we have 3 months to prepare. Start evacuating civilians from the most vulnerable colonies. Get Doctor's team to install her automated defense systems on every world we can reach. And Ho, I want you to take the war to them." Ho raised an eyebrow. "Sir." "They're planning to hit our colonies. That means they'll have supply lines, staging areas, communication networks. I want all of it disrupted. Make them worry about their own territory for a change." A grim smile crossed Ho's face. "Understood, I'll need resources." "You'll have whatever you need. Ships, weapons, personnel. We're not just going to defend anymore. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten human civilians." Over the next 3 months, humanity worked frantically. On New Haven and the other colonies, Governor Ah oversaw the construction of underground bunkers and automated defense networks. Children practiced evacuation drills. Every adult was armed and trained. These worlds would not fall easily. Doctor's team deployed thousands of defensive drones to each colony, along with automated gun platforms and missile systems. The weapons could be activated remotely and would fight even if every human on the planet was killed. It was grim preparation for a grim possibility. Captain's merchant fleet became a spy network, tracking alien fleet movements and identifying targets. His ships mapped supply routes, located ammunition depots, and identified weak points in alien defenses. And Commander Ho went to work. His Special Forces teams struck like ghosts across Council space. A supply depot here, a communication relay there. They hit and ran before the enemy could respond. They sabotaged ships, stole information, and left confusion in their wake. One night, Ho's team infiltrated a shipyard where part of Coalition fleet was being assembled. They planted bombs in critical systems and escaped before anyone noticed. 3 days later, when the ships tried to launch, 6 of them exploded on them. Dozens of alien crew members died. The rest lost weeks of preparation time. The Council noticed these attacks but couldn't prove humans were responsible. They had no idea that Earth had developed such capabilities. It shook them further, making them realize that the primitives had more tricks than anyone had imagined. Senator grew increasingly paranoid. His coalition suffered setback after setback. Someone was sabotaging their plans, but he couldn't figure out who or how. He pushed his allies to move faster, to launch the attack before they were fully prepared. He made a critical mistake. He let anger override caution. Back on Earth, Captain worked with the diplomatic corps to establish relationships with species that opposed the Council's policies. There were many such species, quietly sympathetic to humanity's cause but afraid to speak openly. Offered them something the Council never had: respect and genuine partnership. Some species began trading with human colonies in secret. Others shared intelligence about Council movements. A few even offered asylum to human refugees if the worst should happen. Slowly, carefully, humanity built a network of allies. One species, a race of aquatic beings called the, even offered military support. Their representative, speaking through a water-filled communication tank, explained their position too. "We were where you are now 500 years ago. The Council demanded our submission. We gave it, and we have regretted it ever since. We will not let the same happen to another species. If they attack your colonies, we will send ships to help defend them." Thanked them and reported the offer to Admiral. She nodded slowly. "Accept their help, but make it clear we won't let others fight our battles for us. We'll stand on our own feet. Any allies fight beside us, not for us." As the 4th month approached, Ho's intelligence network confirmed the worst. His coalition fleet was assembled and ready to move. They would hit 12 human colonies simultaneously, overwhelming the defenses with sheer numbers. It would be a massacre. Admiral called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leadership. Commander Ho, Captain, Doctor, and Governor all attended via secure video link. They looked at the fleet movements on the tactical display, at the odds they faced. "They're coming with everything they have," said quietly. "This isn't a warning or a demonstration. This is extermination." Ah spoke from her colony. "We're as ready as we can be. The people here know what's coming. They're scared but determined. No one is talking about surrender." Doctor added, "The defense systems are active on all colonies. They'll buy time, but against these numbers." She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what she meant. Cleared his throat. "I have one more card to play. I've prepared a message to broadcast across the entire galaxy. Not just to the Council, but to every species, every government, every being who can receive it. It will detail what is planning and challenge the galaxy to stop it. Some species will ignore it, but others might respond." Nodded. "Do it, and then we fight. We make them pay for every inch of ground. We make this so costly that even if they win, they'll regret starting it." She stood and looked at each face on the screens. 3 months ago, I thought we were finished. We'd won one battle but faced an entire galaxy. Now look at us. We have colonies, we have allies, we have weapons and strategies that terrify them. Whatever happens in the next few weeks, remember this: humanity doesn't quit. We don't surrender, we survive. The coalition fleet arrived at the human colonies exactly when Ho's intelligence predicted. Hundreds of warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel simultaneously, surrounding 12 different worlds. The attack had been coordinated perfectly, designed to overwhelm the human defenses before they could respond. On New Haven, Governor Ah stood in the colony's command center watching the alien ships fill the sky above them. There were so many. She had known the numbers from the intelligence reports, but seeing them in reality made her stomach clench. Around her, colonists worked at their stations with grim determination. Children had been evacuated to the deepest bunkers. Every adult who could hold a weapon stood ready. "Activate all defense systems," she ordered calmly. "Show them what we've prepared." Across the planet's surface, hundreds of automated gun platforms came online. Missile silos opened. Defensive drones lifted into the air like a swarm of metal insects. The aliens had expected to find helpless victims. Instead, they faced a fortress. The first alien ship moved into orbital bombardment position and opened fire. Energy beams lanced down toward the colony's main settlement. But Doctor's shield generators flared to life, absorbing the impact. The shields wouldn't last long against sustained fire, but they bought precious time. Ah's weapons officer reported, "Surface-to-orbit missiles launching now, first wave away." Hundreds of missiles streaked upward, overwhelming the alien point defense systems. Some were shot down, but others got through, slamming into hulls and damaging weapons arrays. The aliens had expected an easy victory. They were learning otherwise. But there were too many ships and too few human weapons. Slowly, inevitably, the defenses began to fail. One shield generator overloaded. Then another. Alien weapons started hitting the surface, turning buildings to rubble and killing colonists despite their preparations. In space above another colony world, Captain's merchant fleet fought desperately. His ships had been converted into impromptu warships, armed with whatever weapons Earth could spare. They were hopelessly but fought anyway, using their knowledge of the local space to hit and run, drawing fire away from the colonies. Ship shook as a plasma bolt grazed its hull. Alarms screamed. His crew worked frantically to keep the engines running. "Target that cruiser," he shouted. "Hit their shield generator." His weapons fired modified missiles that carried Doctor's shield disruptors. The alien cruiser's shields flickered and died. Conventional weapons from 3 human ships concentrated their fire, and the cruiser broke apart. But 2 more ships moved in to take its place. Knew they couldn't win. The math was too brutal, but every minute they fought was another minute for civilians to reach the bunkers. Every alien ship they damaged was one less weapon firing at the colony. They would fight until they couldn't fight anymore. Admiral watched from Earth as the battles unfolded across 12 star systems. Each colony reported heavy fighting. Each colony was being overwhelmed. She had known this would happen, had prepared for it, but watching it in real time was torture. "Status of the counterattack?" she asked. Commander Ho replied from his command ship, "Fleet is in position. We've broken through their rear security, beginning the strike now." While the coalition fleet attacked the colonies, Admiral had sent every ship Earth could spare to strike at the enemy's supply lines and staging areas. If the colonies were doomed anyway, then humanity would make sure the victory cost the aliens everything they had. Ho's fleet hit the coalition's main supply depot like a hammer. The aliens had left it lightly defended, assuming all attention would be on the colony attacks. They were wrong. Human ships appeared from faster-than-light travel and opened fire immediately. The depot, filled with ammunition and fuel, exploded in a series of catastrophic detonations that could be seen from light years away. At the same time, Captain's message began broadcasting across the galaxy. It went out on every frequency, translated into every major language. The message was simple and direct, outlining the coalition's genocidal attack on human civilians. It showed images of the fighting, of colonists dying defending their homes. And it ended with a challenge. "We came to you in peace," his voice said. "You responded with war. We warned you that humanity doesn't surrender. You didn't listen. Now witness what happens when you try to exterminate us. We will fight. We will make you pay. And we will remember every species that participated in this atrocity." The message reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Some dismissed it, others ignored it, but some responded. The true to their word sent a fleet to aid the human colony of Riverside. Their ships appeared just as the colony's defenses were collapsing. The aquatic beings fought with surprising ferocity, their organic weapons and bioships confusing the coalition forces. Together with the human defenders, they managed to hold Riverside. 3 other species sent ships as well, smaller forces, but enough to make a difference. Not every colony could be saved, but now some had a chance. On New Haven, Governor Oz colony continued to hold despite terrible losses. Half the surface installations were destroyed. Thousands of colonists were dead, but the survivors fought with a determination that shocked the alien attackers. Every street became every building a fortress. When alien soldiers finally landed to secure what they thought was a defeated colony, they found armed civilians waiting in ambush. Humans fought with weapons, with tools, with their bare hands if necessary. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had something more important. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their right to exist. Senator watched the battle reports with growing horror. The attacks were succeeding, yes. Several colonies would fall, but the cost was astronomical. His fleet was taking heavy losses. The supply situation was becoming critical. And worst of all, the entire galaxy was watching. Dozens of species were condemning the attacks. Some were openly supporting humanity. The coalition he had built began to crack. 2 species, their ships, unwilling to continue participating in what the galaxy was calling genocide. Others continued fighting, but with less enthusiasm. The political cost was becoming too high. Commander Ho's forces continued their campaign behind enemy lines. They struck shipyards, communication hubs, and military bases. They used the stolen intelligence from months of covert operations to hit the coalition where it hurt most. Every attack drew forces away from the colonies, relieving pressure on the defenders. In one daring raid, Ho himself led a team that infiltrated a coalition command station. They didn't try to destroy it. Instead, they compromised the computer systems, stealing command codes and planting false orders. For 6 critical hours, the coalition fleet descended into chaos as ships received contradictory orders and commanders couldn't verify what was real. By the end of the 2nd week of fighting, the situation had stabilized into a brutal stalemate. 4 human colonies had been completely destroyed, their populations killed or scattered. 5 more were heavily damaged but still holding. 3, including New Haven and Riverside, had actually repelled the attacks with help from allied species. The coalition fleet had lost over 100 ships and thousands of crew members. Their supply lines were in shambles. Political support back home was crumbling as populations watched footage of human civilians fighting to their last breath. Senator knew he had made a terrible mistake. He had expected a quick victory. Instead, he had united the galaxy against his coalition and turned humanity into martyrs and heroes. Even worse, the humans showed no signs of surrendering. Even the colonies facing certain destruction continued fighting. Admiral received reports of the losses with a heavy heart. So many dead, so many colonies damaged or destroyed, but humanity had survived. They had proven that they couldn't be easily eliminated. And more importantly, they had gained something invaluable: respect. Captain prepared one final message. This one would be broadcast not just to the galaxy but recorded for history, for every human who would ever live. He stood before the camera in his simple uniform, his face showing the strain of the past months. To the Galactic Council and all who hear this, we came to you in peace. We offered cooperation, trade, and friendship. You responded with arrogance, threats, and attempted genocide. We warned you that humanity survived when our own planet tried to kill us. We warned you that we are relentless, adaptable, and united when threatened. You didn't listen. He paused, letting his words carry weight. Now you've learned what we already knew. Humanity doesn't just survive, we thrive through adversity. You tried to quarantine us, blockade us, defeat us, and exterminate us. You failed at every turn. This is not a warning anymore. This is a statement of fact. Earth and her colonies will defend themselves by any means necessary. We will expand, we will grow stronger, and we will remember those who sought our destruction. His voice grew harder. To the species who supported the coalition, you gambled on our extinction and lost. The price of that mistake is yours to bear. Your ships are destroyed. Your resources are wasted. Your reputations are ruined, and we are still here. To those who stood aside or opposed this aggression, we offer trade, cooperation, and friendship on our terms as equals. To the Council, your authority is broken. Your quarantine failed. Your fleets are scattered. We warned you this would happen. Now it's too late to undo what you started. He leaned forward slightly. Humanity is here to stay. The galaxy will adapt to us, not the other way around. We warned you. You didn't listen. Now live with the consequences. The message went out across every communication channel humanity could access. It was heard in council chambers, on merchant ships, in military bases, and in civilian homes across 1,000 worlds. Some species were angry, some were frightened, but all of them understood that something fundamental had changed. 5 years later, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council existed in name only, its authority shattered by internal conflicts and the failure of the Coalition War. Species that had been unified under Council rule now operated as independent powers, each pursuing their own interests. Humanity had established 43 colonies across 60 light-years of space. New Haven had been rebuilt and expanded, now serving as the capital of human extrasolar territory. The colonies thrived, protected by a growing fleet of warships and an extensive defense network. Admiral had retired after securing humanity's place among the stars. She had accomplished what Admiral Min started, ensuring that Earth would never again face extinction alone. She spent her retirement writing a history of the war, ensuring future generations would remember those who had sacrificed everything. Commander Ho established Earth's first dedicated intelligence service. His network of agents and informants spanned the galaxy, ensuring humanity would never again be caught unprepared. The old warrior had found his place in the new order. Doctor's research led to technological breakthroughs that revolutionized space travel and defense. Human technology, once dismissed as primitive, now competed with anything the galaxy had to offer. Other species came to Earth to study and trade for these innovations. Captain's merchant fleet had grown into a commercial empire. Human goods and services were in high demand across the galaxy. Earth's reputation as survivors and fighters translated into economic power. Governor Ah continued to lead New Haven, transforming it from a desperate outpost into a thriving world. She had proven that humanity could not only survive in hostile environments but thrive. Captain and Ambassador stood together on the observation deck of Unity Station, Earth's first diplomatic hub. Below them, dozens of ships from different species docked at the ports. Aliens who once dismissed humanity now came as equals, seeking trade agreements, military alliances, and cultural exchanges. "Do you remember when we first went to the Council?" asked quietly. "How they laughed at us?" Nodded, watching a Council delegation's ship approach for negotiations. A Council delegation coming to Earth to negotiate with humans. The irony was not lost on him. "They called us primitive," he said. "They called us weak. They tried to control us, defeat us, destroy us. And now they come to us for protection and alliance." "We gave them every chance to avoid this," replied. "Yes," agreed. "We warned them." He turned to look at her, a slight smile on his weathered face. "They learned too late that humanity doesn't ask for permission to exist. We survive. We endure, we prevail." Together they watched as the future unfolded before them. A future where humanity stood as equals among the stars, respected and even feared. A future bought with blood and sacrifice, but a future nonetheless. The galaxy had tried to crush them and failed. Now it would learn to live with them. Humanity had delivered its last message, and the galaxy had finally listened.